This should be on page 12. Okay, so we've been reading this text, The State Government and Its Citizens. We've been reading this same text all week and every day doing something a little different with it. Today we're going to do two different things. We're going to focus on one skill and then we'll spend some time doing something different. The first skill that we're going to focus on is our text structure. Y'all remember us talking about text structure last week? Okay. And I told you text structure is only going to be when you're reading an informational passage. You don't have text structure in fiction. It's only when you're reading information. It's about, text structure is the way that they organize information. Okay? And some of the different ways, I don't want you to write this. I'm going to write something on the board, but don't put it in your book right now, okay? Some of the different text structures we have are compare and contrast. So if your story has two things, and they're telling you how they're alike and different, okay? So if this text was telling us about the federal government, and then they're telling us about the state government, and they're telling us how they were alike and how they were different, that would be compare and contrast. Is that what they're doing? No. They didn't tell us how they're alike and different, did they?
No.
When they told us that they have different powers, but this whole thing is how they share that power and what the state does, right? So we're not comparing and contrasting. We have description. Description is when they take one thing and they tell you all about it. So you could say that this essay is organized as description. The text structure is description. Because they took one thing and they told you all about it. What is the one thing that they took? What's the one thing that they're telling you about? I should see everybody's hands. This whole story is about the what? Stella?
How the government helps our citizens.
Which kind of government?
The state government.
The state government. And it's everything they did. They took the state government and they described everything about the state government. So this is description. This text is description, okay? Some others, compare and contrast, description, problem and
Solution.
Remember last week, our text had the text structure of problem and solution. It would say a problem, and then it would talk about how the government solved it, okay? Cause and effect. So if they tell you what happened and what caused it, if the whole story is about what happened and what caused it, then that would be cause and effect. And then the last one is sequence or sequence. I can't talk in right. Or sometimes they call it chronological order. And that just means that they tell you all about one thing, but they're telling you the order it happened in. Like if they were going to write a story about my life, they would start with the very beginning. Or if they were going to write a story about the government in chronological order, they might talk about the very first people that were, maybe the first president, and then the next president, and then the next president. So they would tell it in order. Yes.
It's like a timeline.
Yes, like a timeline. Yes. Okay, so all of these text structures are going to be just for informational stories. We know that this text is what kind of text structure? What do we say this text structure is? Everybody together.
Information. Description.
It is information, but it's description. You guys are right. All of these will have informational text. But the type of text structure they're using is description. They've taken one thing and they have
A lot of facts.
about it. They described it to you. Description, describe. Y'all hear how those are similar? Okay? So description is when you take one thing and you describe it. So this whole story we read is about description. Within it, there are a few problems that the government fixes, right? So you need to know that this is description, but we're going to talk about some of the problems that are in it. Just because there's a problem, just because they talk about a problem in here and they talk about the way the government fixes it, does that mean the whole story is about problems? No. Is the whole story about solutions? No. So it's not going to be problem and solution just because there's a problem in there. You can't say, oh, I see a problem. It's got to be problem and solution. That's the way they've organized it. That's not true. They've taken one thing and told us all about it. So this is description. But we're going to talk about a problem and solution I have today, okay? So everybody's eyes up here. And let me find my. Okay, read this to us, Jerry.
Reread paragraph 2. Explain how the Constitution helps solve the problem of states needing help with issues that affect only the people.
Sorry, I'm trying to get it off. Okay, go ahead.
In a
Particular.
state.
Okay, so it says reread paragraph
2.
2. So our first job is to go back to paragraph
2.
2. Okay, so everybody look at paragraph 2. It's on page 13. Caius, why don't you read paragraph 2 for us? Everybody's looking at paragraph 2.
The federal government cannot meet all the needs of all American citizens. So the Constitution says that each state is responsible for protecting the lives and liberties of its own citizens. Also, different states have different issues. For instance, water conservation is a big issue in California because of the severe drought there and its effects on the state's agricultural in Wisconsin, protecting livestock and is a major concern because dairy farming is a big industry in that state. Each state government responds to the specific needs of its citizens.
Good job. Okay, we said that this text as a whole is description. They took one thing, the state government, and described it. That's the text structure of the whole text. But sometimes, on CASE, on 10 Ready, on your unit assessments that we take in here, they may ask you what is the text structure of one paragraph. We know the whole text is description, but what's the text structure of just this paragraph? In just this paragraph, did they take one thing and tell us all about it? They did?
No.
Because here I see we're talking about the federal government, we're talking about what the Constitution did, we're talking about California and some things going on there, Wisconsin, some things going on there. So they take one thing and tell us all about it?
No.
Yeah, so they're not describing anything in paragraph 2. What are they doing in paragraph 2? Compare and contrast, cause and effect, sequence, problem and solution, or description. We've already taken description out. What is the text structure in paragraph 2? What do you think? And if you tell me what you think, which one you think it is, I want you to tell me why you think that. Gavin, what do you think?
Problem and solution.
Okay, I love your nonverbals. I'm giving the whole class a dojo point for participating. Okay, why do you think it's problem and solution, Gavin? What makes you think that?
Because it's talking about problems that the federal government can't meet all the needs of all the citizens.
Perfect. So here is our problem. Everyone write problem. Okay, Gavin, in just a minute, I want you to keep explaining it, but I don't want them to get lost. So we're going to kind of mark some things along the way, okay? So our problem, he said, is that the federal government cannot meet all the needs. There are a lot of Americans, a lot of citizens, and the federal government can't meet all those needs. All right, Gavin, so we've got our problem. Now, why do you think it's problem and solution?
Because it also says, so the Constitution says that each state is responsible for protecting the lives and liberties of its own citizens.
Absolutely. So we have a problem, and then when they say they're giving us the solution. The solution is that the Constitution says each state is responsible for who? Of its own citizens. So like we said yesterday, Tennessee is responsible for? Florida is responsible for? Alabama is responsible for?
Alabama.
Okay, got it right today, huh? So this would be our,
Solution.
so the structure of just this paragraph is what?
Problem and solution.
Problem and solution. Sometimes on a test, they will say, what is the text structure of the whole passage? That would be a description. They took the state government and described it. Sometimes they'll say, what is the text structure of paragraph 2? Or paragraph 3 or paragraph 4. And in that case, you go to just that paragraph and see what are they doing. Here, they're telling us about a problem and a solution. So now let's go back to our question, okay? We've read this. We know that the problem is the federal government what? What's our problem? Real quick, Bryson.
The federal government cannot meet all the needs of the
Can't meet all the needs of the citizens. So the Constitution did what? What was the solution? Ruthie?
Its solution was that each state had to protect its own citizens.
Yes. Okay, so let's go back to our question. Now, reread paragraph 2. We did that. Everybody's here with me? All right. Okay. It says, explain how the Constitution helps solve the problem of states needing help with issues that affect only the people in a particular state. What did we just read? How did the Constitution help them protect the people in each state? What did we just read? Let's talk about it. Nadia, what do you think? How did the Constitution help that problem?
The Constitution helped that problem because
It said what?
each state has to protect its own citizens.
Absolutely. So the Constitution gave each state the power to make decisions for their own what? Citizens, their own citizens, yes. Yes, Hayes, add on to that.
In the problem, it told us it was a problem.
It did tell us that it was a problem. So it gave you a little bit of a clue, right? Yes. Okay. All right, so that's a quick review of text structure. Remember, sometimes they're going to ask the text structure of the whole passage. Sometimes they'll ask the text structure of just one paragraph, okay? All right, now we're swapping gears. We're done with text structure. We're moving to talking about visual things within the text. A lot of times we will read a passage, and when we see stuff like this in our passage, we skip it. How many of you skip these things when you read? Be honest. I see a couple hands. Yeah. Or when you read this page, like you wouldn't look down here. You might look at the pictures, but you don't read the words underneath them. Anybody do that?
I don't. I read.
Okay, class.
Yes.
Some of you are being real honest. You don't read those things. But the author and the illustrator work together to give you things that will help you understand it. Like yesterday when we read about transportation, some of us didn't know what a toll was. But then when we look down here at the picture and it tells us that's a toll, that's the author and illustrator working together to make sure that we understand the things they're talking about. So if we don't read these things, we're really only hurting ourselves because they're giving us a little bit more information that will help us understand the text. So today, what we're going to do is read some of the text, then read the captions, and we're going to see how they go together. How are they connected? Okay? We're going to do one together, then you're going to do some on your own. Just like last week, this is a review. We did this last week also, right? And this is why you have your computer. We're going to do one together, and then you're going to do one on your computer. Okay? Yes?
We did one of these on that Giants book and one of the poems.
With Miss Cherry, is that what you're talking about? Yes?
I think so.
Cool. So this should be a really big review then.
We
The rabbit thing.
Okay. All eyes here. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1 together, and then number 2 you're going to do on your own in Google Classroom. Number 1 says turn to page 12. We're already there. Watch instructional video. That's for the people that are at home. Then complete the charts below. So we've done all those things. Now, number 1. Reread pages 12 and
13.
as well as the caption on page 13. So we're going to stop right there and follow those directions. So we have 12 and 13 to read, and then the caption on page 13. Caption means just the little part that's at the bottom. The words that are beside a picture, sometimes they'll call it a caption, sometimes they'll call it a sidebar, okay? So you're going to, with the partner beside you, read 12 and 13, and then we will read this part as a class, okay? So with your partner, you're reading page 12 and 13. Then we'll read the caption together. So turn to the person that's beside you. Make sure your mask is on since you're reading towards each other. Who's your partner normally? Yours is out. Okay, I'll come back there. Yours is out too?
Mine's normally Bradley.
Usually Bradley. Okay, give me just a minute and I'll come help you guys. Everyone else, turn to the partner you normally have.
Who should I be the partner?
Okay, class.
Yes.
I think our partners are messed up because we had some people out last week. Now some are back and then some different people are out. So I'm going to give you a partner. Listen closely. Alyssa and Nadia, Landon and Yatzel, Colby and Hayes, Gavin, you work with Hayes and Colby. Each of you read a paragraph, okay? Bryson and Callan, Lillian and Ruthie, Jerry and Stella, Caius and Wyatt. And then I'll come be your partner, Travis, okay? Does everybody know who their partner is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you've got about 5 minutes to read page 12 and 13. Which word do you need help with?
Well, the federal government, each state has its own state and local government, local police, schools, and libraries. The state and local
Right, back and start. Everybody should be ready. Okay, I heard a lot of us reading really, really well. Most of us were paying attention to our partners. A few of us were not following along when our partner was reading. Remember, it is your job. You have a job the whole time. If you're reading, your job is to read. If it's not your turn to read, your job is still to read, but to read it in your head, because you should be following along with your partner. Every word they say, you should be reading to make sure that they're getting it correct. If your partner is struggling with a word, you don't just let them sit there and struggle. You're following along so that you can help. Okay? So I'm just working on that. Yes.
Can I say hi, please?
Yes, ma'am. Titus, on your way up there, I want you to walk, not run. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about how those two pages are connected to the caption. But before we talk about how they're connected, let's just make sure we know what those pages were about. If I asked you what were these two pages about, what would you say? Remember, we've already highlighted some things on Monday that were important, so you could use those as clues to help you. What would you say these two pages are about? What are details on page 12 and 13? What are they about? What do you think, Alyssa?
I think these two pages are about how the Constitution helps the local and state governments protect us and all that.
Okay. So I put the Constitution helps the local and state governments protect the citizens. Okay. Add on to that, what else do you think that this might be about? Hayes?
The national and state governments work together. How the national and state governments work together to help the citizens.
Okay. How the national and state governments work together. How the national and state governments work together to help the citizens. Okay? Okay. So we said how the local and state governments protect citizens, and then how the national and state governments work together. Hey?
Hi, you have one bring on form of
I have one. Has anybody else brought back their form I gave you yesterday?
Jerry Seals, White Hill, Safe Work, Giselle.
This is the only one this spring.
Okay.
But I will keep out.
Okay, we gotta have those for your permanent records, the school records. Okay?
Bring
All right,
them back.
Thank you.
Wait, where are we?
Thank you, Miss Brenda. Okay, what else do we want to add to this? What else was page 12 and 13 about? What were some other details on page 12 and 13 that you think we need to add? Jerry?
I'd like to add on the Hayes and Alyssa because I think the government said it's better for them to talk to their state government than federal government because he can't do a bunch of people.
Okay, so the federal government allows citizens to talk to the local, to the state government more. Okay. Allows citizens to talk to the state government more in order to handle problems. Okay. Good job, Jerry. All right, last one, Bryson. What do you think we need to add?
I think the federal government can't do all the work, but also the governments also work together to help their citizens.
Yes, I agree completely with what you said, but I think we kind of already have that in those three. Okay, so I think if you've got something different, let me know. But if it's something that we've already got up here, Ruthie, what do you think?
The federal government cannot meet all the needs of the American citizens, so the Constitution says that each state is responsible for protecting the lives and liberty of its own citizens.
Yes, I think that's where we have the Constitution helps the local and state government. I think that would fall under there. Nadia?
I think page 12 and 13 is about how the state and local governments share the power to protect the citizens.
Yes, share the power, work together. Let's see. Work together and I'll add and share the power. Okay? All right, now let's look at the caption on page 13. Okay? And we're going to see what that's about. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how they are
Similar.
Alike.
Woo, look at that page. Remember our job today. How they are connected. We want to know, what does this story have to do with these captions? Because the author and illustrators work together to give us information. When they're giving us information, they're working together to make sure we understand the information they're giving us. So now we're looking at the caption at the bottom of page 13. Is everybody there? Okay, read it for us nice and loud, Stella.
State Constitution outlined the priorities of the state. The state Constitution of Florida decides education as a fundamental value of the people of the state of Florida. This is the first page of the Florida Constitution of 1868.
Okay. What does that mean when it says it's the the fundamental value? What does that mean when it says the fundamental value? When it says that education is a fundamental value, that means they think education is what, Bryson?
Education is like everything because governments, if education wasn't a thing, then governments wasn't.
Yeah, like you said education's everything. That means to them education is very important. Yes. Hayes, is that what you were going to say? Okay, I was about to call him. Okay, so they're saying that education is not something that can fall through the cracks. Florida believes in their constitution that one of the biggest things that the government has to help with to protect the citizens is what? Education. So if we were talking about the details on the caption, in the caption on page 13, what would you say that caption is about? If we were going to write one sentence about what this caption was about, what would you say? I should say all hands because we just talked about it and we read it together. Everybody should be able to participate. Colby, what would you say?
I would say that the state government is he helps the United States.
Okay, but what was this about? This wasn't about the United States. It was about which state?
Florida.
Y'all saw? He can do this. Okay, and so okay, so this is about Florida's Constitution. What does Florida's Constitution say, Landon?
It says a fundamental value of the people of the state of Florida.
What about it, though? What is Florida? What are we going to add here? Am I just going to say the people of Florida? They what? What do the people of Florida think?
That a fundamental value of the people. That makes sense.
What did we? Okay, so we just talked about what this said. When we read this, and we were just going, don't worry about those big words in there. If you were just going to tell me what this paragraph was about, what would you say it was about?
It was about where they talked about
Like, what did Florida think was important?
the fundamental value of education.
Yes, that's what. So don't worry so much about those words in there. Okay, just put it in your own words because you knew what it was about. Okay, so if we were gonna say, we would say the people of Florida think education is what?
Important.
Is an important. And what was the word they used? Important, fundamental.
Value.
And fundamental value just means that it's not something that you can look over. It's not something that you can let go. It's one of the most important. Yes.
I'd like to add on to what Landon because I think I would say like something to wrong with him. I think the people of Florida think education is better for state in the United States for their children.
Yeah, I think so. It thinks that each state should focus on that. Okay. Let me think about how you just said that.
Each state
Each state
should want their children
should want their children to get a what?
to get good education.
To get a good education. Love that, Jerry. Good job. Okay, last one, Bryson.
I think it's about the priorities in the Constitution and the fundamental values of people.
Yes, so they're saying that if it's a priority, that means it's one of the things that they what? Should do, have to do. A priority is not an option. So they're saying education is their top priority. Yes. Okay. Now, if we're going to say, Hayes, what you got?
I was going to say the state of Florida honors education.
Yes, state of Florida honors education. All of those are good. We could keep adding all those things. We would be here all day, but we could keep adding all those things. They're all true. Okay. Let's say we're going to say we'll kind of put those two together. Florida believes that education. Okay, let's say Florida honors education and keeps it as, yes, and keeps it a priority. Good. Okay. So we know that the text on those pages is about the state government working with the national government. They're working together to help the citizens. It's talking about how each state protects their own citizens. And then here we're talking mostly just about Florida and how Florida thinks one way they can protect their citizens is by giving their citizens a good, what?
Education.
So now how are these two connected? How are these two connected? What's the same about these two? How do they go together? Heads up, Caius. How do these two go together? How does it help you understand? How does the caption help you understand the text, and the text help you understand the caption? They're both about the what? Yeah, so what are both of these about? Huh? Okay, so they both explain which government? Yes, but if it's Florida and Florida's doing its best for its citizens, then that's which kind of government? Is that the national or the state government? What are we focusing on in these types? State government. Okay, they both explain how the state government. Okay, finish that sentence for us, Wyatt.
Helps its citizens.
Okay, helps its citizens. Do you think we can add something else to that? They both explain how the state government helps its citizens. Give me some more. Add on to that. Stella?
During its disasters.
Okay, Stella, anywhere in here have we put a disaster? No. That's true. State governments do help during disasters, but that's not what these pages were about. So you have to separate what you already know about government from what the text actually says, okay? Travis?
I would think that you could say that the government, the state government, he always gives like all the schools money for the children to get Germ-X and all the water and stuff.
Okay, you're using our example from yesterday. Okay. By giving, let's say, money and resources to what?
School.
To the schools. Okay. They both explain how the state government helps its citizens by giving money and resources to the schools. Okay. That's true. But I want you to think down here in the bottom, did it say anything about them actually giving money yet? No. So I'm going to take that out. That's true. They do give money, but that's not on pages 12 and 13. That's on the next page. We want to make sure we're just sticking to these pages that we just read. So they both explain how the state government helps its citizens by giving resources to the school. Did it talk about them giving resources on these pages? No. What did it say they do for education? They do give resources and they do give money. But is that on these pages? No. Kaya's head up. All the way. Sit up. All the way. Elbows down, head up. Okay. What do they do for education on these pages? They help the citizens by what? By what? Jerry?
They help these citizens by helping.
What did it say? This whole thing is about the state government helping citizens, right? And then you guys said here that Florida helps them by keeping education what? Look here. What did they go back to? Now you're saying how the caption connects to it. By what? What do you think, Nadia?
Keeping it fundamental.
Okay, keeping it fundamental. Give me some more. Keeping it a
Resource. Priority.
a priority. Yes. Okay, so let's say by keeping education a. So they both explain how the state government helps its citizens by keeping education a priority. Okay? So in these pages in the text, we talk about how the government, local and state, work together and how the state government protects its citizens. Gavin, put that down, please. And here in the caption, we're talking about how Florida continues to work for their citizens by keeping education a priority. Those two are connected because both of them are about how the state government are helping who? The citizens. Yeah. And then specific ways they're doing that are keeping education a priority. Okay, so those go together. They don't say the exact same thing, but they go together to help you understand both. Okay? Yes, Nadia.
They use the Constitution.
Yes, the Constitution. So we could say they both explain how the Constitution gives power to the state government to help its citizens. You could add that in there. Yes, Ruthie?
Why is there a white swatch over the Florida Constitution?
I think just because it's old and, when documents are older, they get damaged.
Yeah, but like, how am I supposed to see the water?
Well, they have multiple
Numerous
copies.
I
I don't know. Wyatt?
They kind of both have a problem because Florida needs more education, and in paragraph 2, they're in farming and the drought.
Yes, so you could have said that. We could have added in there, okay, let's do that, Wyatt. On paragraph 2, explains specific problems where?
About a drought.
Specific drought problems. And where was that at?
California.
And then dairy farmers
In Wisconsin.
and dairy farming issues in Wisconsin. Okay. And then you said that problems that they're talking about that the government has to take care of would be what in that caption?
The schools, they need more education.
Yes. The caption talks about how the government is in charge of bettering the education of Florida. Okay, and so in both of them, they're talking about how the government does what?
So it's like education and problems.
Okay, the state government solves problems where, though?
In paragraph 2.
Travis. Where does the state government solve problems for?
In paragraph 2 in the caption.
Okay, yes, but everybody together. Everybody look up here. They're solving drought problems in California. The state government is solving dairy farming problems in Wisconsin. Raise your hand up. And they're solving education problems in Florida. So in both of those, they're solving problems where? Where are they solving problems? How are those connected? They're all solving problems where, Stella?
Where they live in their state.
Yes, the state government solves problems for their own state. Florida's not solving problems here in Tennessee. Florida has their own problems. Our state government is solving problems in Tennessee. So the state government solves problems for their own state. Good. I love the way you added that on, Wyatt. That's very important. I like the way you pulled that out. Good job. Okay. So what we did is we read the text. We talked about what it was about. Then we read the caption. We said what it was about. And then we said how those two are connected. How do they build on each other? A lot of you are saying how they're alike. Yes, how they're alike, but how does this help you understand what they're talking about in Florida? How does what they're talking about in Florida help you understand this? How do they help you understand each other? How are they connected? Okay? Alright, so you're going to, yes, Ruthie.
I was going to tell you how they like that.
Okay, tell me one.
Because the Florida adds on, they gave us true reasons in the second paragraph and another one in the caption, and that just helps us get a little bit more information about
Absolutely.
what that means.
Yes, absolutely. So when they're giving you information in two different places, this information builds on this information so that you understand both of them better. Okay, you're going to do number 2 by yourself. So you're going to get out your computer, log into classwork, and you're going to do number 2. We've done 1 together. Now I want to see you do number 2 by yourself. Okay? Okay, I'll come fix it. Class.
Yes.
Everybody freeze. I want to give you a few important instructions before you start. Number 1, the first thing it says is to reread. Freeze. The first thing it says is to reread the text on pages 14 and 15. That is not optional. You've read it before, but you've also read a lot of stuff today. So you have to go back and read it again. I should not see you typing first. You should be reading it first. Do we understand that? The second thing I want you to know is that this is something I want you to do by yourself. But if you need help, I am here. Do not struggle and get frustrated, okay? I do want to see what you can do, but I'm also here to help. We're going to take a bathroom break while we're doing it, okay? Any questions? Yes.
You know how the subheading education goes to the next page? Did we read that?
No. Just the 2 pages they have. Yes.